Do, 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 do. We are live! Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this. We're doing this, I guess.
This thing!
This thing. Well, I meant the hand waving. I feel kind of like a Muppet. Oh, did I tell you I rewatched Muppet Treasure Island with Sandy?
Was it so cute?
It's so good. It holds up so well, and I still know all the songs. And then I got the Cabin Fever song stuck in my head for 3 days. I've got cabin fever.
I
I've
got
it too.
That's
Highly
awesome.
recommend. We have access to Disney Plus.
So
Indeed. Well, there you go. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch Muppet Treasure Island.
Awesome. I think I watched The Great Muppet Caper when we first
Also a good one.
Yeah.
We were gonna watch Muppets. We were gonna watch Muppets Take Manhattan, and then I remembered that it has the song about like saying goodbye and going away when you're not going to see people for a long time, and I was like, nope. Muppet Treasure Island. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, that's got Sailing for Adventure. And like you said, Cabin Fever. Oh God, Cabin Fever is like the freaking theme song of the world right now.
It really is. And I'd like to get my hands on whoever wrote the script. I'm just saying. Oh, good times.
Live imitating art. Hang on, that might be.
Yeah.
A friend of mine bought us some chicken.
Oh, how nice.
Right?
I'm going to go on a nighttime speed run through the grocery store tonight. It will be the first time I've left my house since the... Hang on. Since the 12th.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm very serious about this whole thing. But so yeah.
Good. Healthy sibling. I've been stupid, but not that stupid. But like, I do go to bookstores if I get a chance.
I would love to go to a bookstore, but
my family moves as a unit. We're like a pod of dolphins, and then people look at us funny, like, "Why are you all together?" And it's like, because we all have each other's germs already. There's no escaping. There's 8 of us. We all like share surfaces and meals and couches, and it's not going to. We are one.
You live and die as a unit.
Exactly. And we were trying, like, we were looking at the games at Barnes and Noble, and a woman came to the end of the aisle and just stood there for a while. And I was like, Avi, we're going to move out of this aisle because this lady would like to look at these games. And he was a trooper, like, but as per usual, everything he saw, he was like, oh, I want that.
Well, he's 8.
8.
I am an excellent aunt / whatever, and I definitely know how old all of the kids are without having to think about it. Anyways, you want to hear what happened to me?
None of us can remember how old all my kids are without thinking about it.
To be honest with you, I don't even remember how old I am without thinking about it. I consistently get my age wrong. 32, 1, 31. Yeah, okay. Any hoodle.
What happened to you?
So it didn't happen to me, actually. I was just in the vicinity. Sandy came home last night and started washing dishes because she's better at adulting than me. And all of a sudden there was a sound of water. And it turns out that we have like the garbage disposal, right? And then there's the little like plasticky pipe thing that comes out of the garbage disposal that the water goes through.
Yeah.
Well, when they installed it, we found out today what happened was that they had put an extra piece that it didn't need, that like didn't attach properly because it shouldn't have been there. Yeah. But so the pipe just went boink and sprayed all the water all over everywhere. So we cleaned that up and reassembled the pipe as best we could, but we couldn't because we didn't know that that piece wasn't supposed to be there. Like, am I a plumber? No. Sandy earned many, many butch points by reassembling it as well as anyone could have, the way that it was set up. And then we sent an email to our management company because you can't go to the office in person anymore. And we went to bed. And then they came today and fixed it at like 2. But yeah, that's for anyone who's wondering, that is why we started late today, because I was like, I haven't eaten because we couldn't use our anything.
Yeah.
Sink situation.
Yeah, I just, it's like all the houses are freaking out too.
Yeah, I'd really love it if they would like pick a better time. Like space. Here's the thing, and I say this frequently also about like personal crises in my orbit. Space yourselves the fuck out. Don't all have a crisis on the same day. Like Yellowstone is now like having lots of activity in the super volcano, and we're just like, bro,
right?
Space yourselves out. I can't have.
We can't have with the thing. No. And earthquakes.
I mean, I guess
there's been a lot of earthquakes in like areas that aren't earthquake prone, and I'm like, we can't be dealing with the earthquakes right now.
I mean, on the upside, if the Yellowstone supervolcano goes, none of us in this area will have to worry about the coronavirus anymore. And by this area, I mean the western half of the United States.
Yeah, that area.
We have just received a comment with the emoji that's the like muscle, and it says this is the butch points emoji.
Hey, Daddy, I love you.
That actually was Sandy.
Yes.
Just because it says poison does not mean that it's our dad.
Hey, Sandy, I love you. I do associate poison whatever with Dad.
Yeah, he doesn't usually put that in his usernames for things.
What is his username?
I don't know. Text him and find out. I have no idea.
He's busy. Otherwise, he'd be commenting right now.
It's possible.
Right. Our house had in rapid succession the hot tub killed itself, and then the dishwasher killed itself, taking a huge chunk of floor with it, and then the sewage main killed itself. So I'm hoping that 3 is it. Like catastrophes come in 3s, right? So then we can chill for a while.
It'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Oy vey. Live comments are fun.
I know, right?
Any hoodle.
Tech I need in order to do remote camera. Today I'd like to be drawing. I might end up finding a way to like prop the camera somehow.
I was thinking propping it like that would work if you could figure out how, maybe like, I don't know how your tablet's set up, but like, I'll show you my very high-tech setup I have here. Also my really messy room. But that's what my laptop is on.
Okay.
Okay. And I turned that fast. Nobody look at my laundry. It's fine. Half of it is clean. No further questions at this time.
No further questions.
No further questions. If you want to figure out your setup, though, you read yesterday, so I was thinking I could read today.
Fuck yeah.
So you can mute if you want for the like swooshy noises, and then I'll just read. And
I can do that. And I'll be working today on a tattoo design that a friend of mine asked for last June, and then said, never, ever say to me, there's no time limit. Go ahead and take your time. Never do that. There's people waiting for art that I promised them in the 90s because they said there's no time limit. If you want art from me, you give me a deadline. I thrive on deadlines. So that was my little PSA.
Give me one moment before I start reading because my phone just rang and I can't see it. So I want to make sure it's not, I don't know who it would be actually that would need to get in touch with me urgently. I don't know, one of our parents or something. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, check.
I mean, they would probably comment on our live stream if they needed to get in touch. But anyway.
And I am looking up hawks. I'm going to find a really good hawk and I'm going to make it look like Norse artwork.
I don't recognize the number. They don't need to talk to me.
There.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. And my screen blacked out for a second. I was very worried, but it was just trying to go to the screensaver. It's not. I don't know if I said this on the stream, but it was really hot in my room yesterday. It was like probably like 80 something in here because I have a south-facing window.
Not liking the thingamajig.
I think so. That's why I have it on books today, so it's not on a soft surface. And if the vent needs to vent, it can do that. But anyway, there we go.
If you were a person who would ask for a hawk tattoo for your arm, would you want it with wings spread or perched on something?
I mean, it's really going to depend on the person. I would probably want it with wings spread because where I would put that is actually where I already have a tattoo, but like we'll pretend it would be on the other arm. Okay, which way am I going? There we go. I would put it like right here with wings spread probably.
Right.
But many people might put it like out here, perched. There we go.
He's got a spot on his forearm.
Oh, he wants it on his forearm. Perched would probably make more sense just shape-wise.
Right.
For that spot, because then you could have like I don't know which. Okay, there. We can see that arm a little better. If it's like right here, then you can have the body and then the head kind of going up where it narrows. Or vice versa, I guess, because you would want it going the other way. But
I even took a picture of his arm. He's got a bigger forearm than I do. So
I mean, everyone has a bigger forearm than I do.
Something with a hawk, make it look Norse. That's it. That's all I got. So the rest is just me and my beautiful intuition.
I'm excited to see what comes out of this.
And I'm excited to listen to the next part of the book, which is...
I think we're starting chapter 2 today, eh?
Ooh, Frodo did not see him again for a long time.
I think that's where we left off.
Yay, the shadow of the past. We made it through the party.
We made it through the party. This is the only party we're going to attend in the foreseeable future, and we made it through. I'm just saying.
I'm picturing the gardeners coming with the wheelbarrows, wearing masks.
With really long extended poles on the wheelbarrows so they don't have to get within six feet. Oh, also...
poking the people into the wheelbarrows.
I definitely see bird masks.
Oh,
like Plague Doctor style.
100%. Plague Doctor hobbits. Incidentally, I finally decided that several of the D chunk of the elemental art, I've got to have some hobbits in the D block. There's with the, let's see. All right.
I'm sorry. The phrase "I've got to have some hobbits in the D block" is just
very street.
Please don't tell me these things.
So there's the S block and the P block, which I think of as salt and pepper as a mnemonic. And then there's the big D block that's like all the transition metals, this huge chunk in the middle. And then there's the F block at the bottom. And I'm just doing S and P right now, but when I get to the D block, I got to paint me some hobbits.
It's never going to become less funny to me that you call it the D block. Just, it's never not funny. All right.
Well,
anyways,
it's rhyming mnemonic. You can do salty duck, pepper flake.
Sure.
Right.
Anywho, I'm glad we got that sorted out.
And now it's time for the shadow of the past.
And now it's time for the shadow of the past. The talk did not die down in 9 or even 99 days. The second disappearance of Mr. Bilbo Baggins was discussed in Hobbiton, and indeed all over the Shire, for a year and a day. And it was remembered much longer than that. Excuse me one moment, everyone. Terribly sorry. I needed to cough. I had something in my throat.
Check. I need to grab me some paper, so keep reading. I can hear you.
Okay. Let's see. It became a fireside story for young hobbits, and eventually Mad Baggins, who used to vanish with a bang and a flash and reappear with bags of jewels and gold, became a favorite character of legend and lived on long after all the true events were forgotten. But in the meantime, the general opinion in the neighborhood was that Bilbo, who had
It's
always been rather
hilarious.
cracked,
It's hilarious that that's put there because, according to the lore, it's several thousand years later and we are remembering the true events. So that means that he's looking into the future and saying, when everything he's written is forgotten, Mad Baggins will still be a character.
I mean, that's how legends work, though.
It does. It is. I'm all right. I'm done interrupting.
Let's see. But in the meantime, the general opinion in the neighborhood was that Bilbo, who had always been rather cracked, had at last gone quite mad and had run off into the blue. There he had undoubtedly fallen into a pool or a river and come to a tragic but hardly untimely end. The blame was mostly laid on Gandalf. If only that dreaded wizard will leave young Frodo alone, perhaps he'll settle down and grow some hobbit sense, they said. And to all appearance, the wizard did leave Frodo alone, and he did settle down, but the growth of hobbit sense was not very noticeable. This is a mood. Let's see. Indeed, he at once began to carry on Bilbo's reputation for oddity. He refused to go into mourning, and the next year he gave a party in honor of Bilbo's 112th birthday, which he called Hundredweight Feast. But that was short of the mark, for 20 guests were invited, and there were several meals at which it snowed food and rained drink, as the hobbits say. Better than the other way around. That would be rather upsetting, unless they were serving soup. Some people were rather shocked. But Frodo kept up the custom of giving Bilbo's birthday party year after year until they got used to it. He said that he did not think Bilbo was dead. When they asked, well, where is he then? He shrugged his shoulders. He lived alone, as Bilbo had done. Confirmed bachelor. Ahem. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
But he had a good many friends, especially among the younger hobbits, mostly descendants of the old Took, who had as children been fond of Bilbo and often in and out of Bag End. Folco Boffin and Fredegar Bolger were two of these, but his closest friends were Peregrine Took, usually called Pippin, and Merry Brandybuck. His real name was Meriadoc, but that was seldom remembered. Frodo went tramping all over the Shire with them, but more often he wandered by himself, and to the amazement of sensible folk he was sometimes seen far from home, walking in the hills and woods under the starlight. Merry and Pippin suspected that he visited the elves at times, as Bilbo had done.
Ooh.
As time went on, people began to notice that Frodo also showed signs of good preservation. Outwardly, he retained the appearance of a robust and energetic hobbit just out of his tweens. Some folk have all the luck, they said, but it was not until Frodo approached the usually more sober age of 50 that they began to think it queer. So this has been, at this point, almost 20 years that he's been living in the Shire with the ring.
16.
I love that you just know that right off the top of your head.
Oh, yeah.
Frodo himself, after the first shock, found that being his own master and the Mr. Baggins of Bag End was rather pleasant. For some years he was quite happy and did not worry much about the future. But half unknown to himself, the regret that he had not gone with Bilbo was steadily growing. He found himself wondering at times, especially in the autumn, about the wild lands, and strange visions of mountains that he had never seen came into his dreams.
Ooh.
He began to say to himself, perhaps I shall cross the river myself one day. To which the other half of his mind always replied, not yet. We have lost Robin in the stream. I'm sure she will be back. Probably accidentally hung up while she was moving the, whatchamacallit, tablet. There we go. I'm just going to keep going. So it went on until his 40s were running out and his 50th birthday was drawing near. 50 was a number that he felt was somehow significant or ominous. It was at any rate at that age that adventure had suddenly befallen Bilbo. Frodo began to feel restless. Oh, there she is. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. I accidentally hit a close every tab on my computer.
I thought it was something like that.
Yep. Ah! Keep going.
All right, let's see. Where am I? It was at any rate at that age that adventure had suddenly befallen Bilbo. Tea break.
So
Also, for anyone who might be watching this who has not seen it before, this is one of my favorite mugs. It was with a collection of motivational mugs that said things like dream and believe and imagine, and this one said seize.
Seeds.
So I figure it's either intended for like Vikings or people with seizure disorders. One of the two. I go with Vikings normally.
Vikings, yeah.
Anyway, back to Bilbo in his 50s. Frodo began to feel restless, and the old paths seemed too well trodden. He looked at maps and wondered what lay beyond their edges. Maps made in the Shire showed mostly white spaces beyond its borders. The Shire is basically like America in terms of geographical education.
It's true. They're like, yeah, we don't need to know what's going on out there. Those are foreigners.
He took to wandering further afield and more often by himself, and Merry and his other friends watched him anxiously. Often he was seen walking and talking with the strange wayfarers that began at this time to appear in the Shire. There were rumors of strange things happening in the world outside. Oof. That is also a mood.
Yeah.
And as Gandalf had not at that time appeared or sent any message for several years, Frodo gathered all the news he could. Elves, who seldom walked in the Shire, could now be seen passing westward through the woods in the evening, passing and not returning. But they were leaving Middle-earth and were no longer concerned with its troubles.
You ask them what's going on, and they're like, eh. Who cares? We're gone. Peace.
I just feel like this, asking people who are like any random person walking through your neighborhood what's happening in the world is basically Middle-earth Twitter. Let's see. There were, however, dwarves on the road in unusual numbers. The ancient east-west road ran through the Shire to its end at the Grey Havens, and dwarves had always used it on their way to their mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news from distant parts, if they wanted any. As a rule, dwarves said little, and hobbits asked no more. But now Frodo often met strange dwarves of far countries seeking refuge in the west. They were troubled, and some spoke in whispers of the enemy and of the land of Mordor. That name the hobbits only knew in legends of the dark past, like a shadow in the background of their memories, but it was ominous and disquieting. It seemed that the evil power in Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council, only to reappear in greater strengths in the old strongholds of Mordor. The Dark Tower had been rebuilt, it was said. From there the power was spreading far and wide, and away far east and south there were wars and growing fear. Orcs were multiplying again in the mountains. Trolls were abroad, no longer dull-witted, but cunning and armed with dreadful weapons. And there were murmured hints of creatures more terrible than all these, but they had no name. Little of all of this, of course, reached the ears of ordinary hobbits. But even the deafest and most stay-at-home began to hear queer tales, and those whose business took them to the borders saw strange things. The conversation in the Green Dragon at Bywater. That's not even one of the hard ones, guys. It's going to be a long book. But one evening in the spring of Frodo's 50th year showed that even in the comfortable heart of the Shire, rumors had been heard, though most hobbits still laughed at them. This is really starting to be a little on the nose.
Yeah. What's the I'm in this picture and I don't like it?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the meme. Sam Gamgee was sitting in one corner near the fire, and opposite him was Ted Sandyman, the miller's son, and there were various other rustic hobbits listening to their talk.
Oh, rustic.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to the not rustic hobbits, who are...
Yeah, the cosmopolitan hobbits. Sophisticated hobbits.
I feel like a cosmopolitan hobbit is just the name of like a drink that's just like a Cosmo with breakfast in it.
Cosmo with a waffle.
Maple syrup Cosmo with bacon garnish and a waffle on top.
I want a cosmopolitan hobbit, please.
Okay, what's in a hobbit? Or
And then while you're drinking it, they throw an apple at your head.
okay, I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, what did you say? I didn't hear what you said.
I meant to say what's in a cosmopolitan, but I said what's in a hobbit. I am going to quickly Google what's in a cosmopolitan just to see if that would be gross.
It would be so well. You said put a waffle in it. That's going to be gross.
I said put a waffle on it. Slightly different. Lime juice, Cointreau, cranberry juice, and vodka? Really?
I don't know what Cointreau is. That's how vanilla I am.
Oh, Cointreau is like orange liqueur.
Oh, okay.
With triple sec. I did not know cosmopolitans were that fruity. Okay, it needs to be more of a fruit salad then. Bacon would not be good in that combination.
No, it would not.
Okay, well, we'll have to come back to this idea. I shall ponder
Cosmopolitan hobbit, check.
What needs to be in a cosmopolitan hobbit. Let's see. Oh yes, because of the rustic hobbits.
Yes.
And there were various other rustic hobbits listening to their talk. Queer things you do here these days, to be sure, said Sam. Ah, said Ted. You do if you listen, but I can hear fireside. I don't know what kind of accent I'm giving Ted here. It's fine. But I can hear fireside tales and children's stories at home if I want to.
I feel like if Ted Sandyman was around right now, he'd be a Trumpy and a flat earther.
Oh, 100% and an anti-vaxxer?
Oh, yeah.
No doubt you can, retorted Sam. And I dare say there's more truth in them than you reckon. I don't have a handle on anybody's accent. It's fine. Who invented the stories anyway? Take dragons now. No, thanky, said Ted. I won't. I heard tell of them when I was a youngster, but there's no call to believe in them now. There's only one dragon in Bywater, and that's green, he said, getting a general laugh. General laugh? All right, said Sam, laughing with the rest. But what about these tree men, these giants, as you might call them? They do say that one bigger than a tree was seen up away beyond the North Moors not long back. Who's they? My cousin Hal, for one. He works for Mr. Boffin at Overhill and goes up to the North Farthing for the hunting. He saw one. Says he did, perhaps. Your Hal's always saying he's seen things, and maybe he sees things that ain't there. But this one was as big as an elm tree and walking 7 yards to a stride if it was an inch. Then I bet it wasn't an inch. What he saw was an elm tree, as like as not. But this one was walking, I tell you, and there ain't no elm tree on the North Moors. Then Hal can't have seen one, said Ted.
And
there
wife.
Was... Huh?
And wife.
Ah, yes. We've connected the dots.
It looks like a pigeon. Okay.
Does it? Let me see.
Arr.
It does a bit. You need more hook on the beak.
Exactly. It keeps getting lost in the neck. I think I need a different... Oh, that one's pretty. Oh.
Where am I here? There was some laughing and clapping. The audience seemed to think that Ted had scored a point.
Oi.
Yeah, I don't know about that as a reference image.
Not a good reference.
That would be also if you got that tattooed on you, within like a year, you would just look like someone had thrown paint on you.
It looked like a bowling pin.
Oh yeah, no.
No.
All right, let's see. All the same, said Sam. You can't deny that others besides our Halifax have seen queer folk crossing the Shire. Crossing it, mind you. There are more that are turned back at the borders. The bounders have never been so busy before. And I've heard tell that elves are moving west. They do say they're going to the harbours out away beyond the White Towers. Sam waved his arm vaguely. Neither he nor any of them knew how far it was to the sea, past the old towers beyond the western borders of the Shire. But it was an old tradition that away over there stood the Grey Havens, from which at times elven ships set sail, never to return. They are sailing, sailing, sailing over the sea. They are going into the west and leaving us, said Sam, half chanting the words, shaking his head sadly and solemnly. But Ted laughed. Well, that isn't anything new if you believe the old tales, and I don't see what it matters to me or you. Let them sail. But I warrant you haven't seen them doing it, nor anyone else in the Shire.
And also, have you ever seen the globe? Really? The conspiracy. They just don't want us to go to Antarctica where the edge is.
You know the best way to shut down a flat earther I've found?
Tell.
You go, obviously the earth isn't flat, and then before they can say anything, you go, it's shaped like a donut and the moon is the hole. And then you deadpan them until they walk away. It's very effective. I use the poker face I got from Dad. The like
the like you don't know whether I'm serious or not. And
that's the one.
Or not, but you can't prove it, and now you're uncomfortable.
Yep, that's the one. It's very effective. Like if I was a Pokemon, that would be my main attack.
You know, I don't think I've met an actual flat earther.
Oh, I haven't either. I've met coworkers who are just messing around, but sometimes I want to get rid of them too.
It does seem to muddy the waters.
Indeed. All right. Well, I don't know, said Sam thoughtfully. He believed he had once seen an elf in the woods and still hoped to see more one day. Of all the legends that he had heard in his early years, such fragments of tales and half-remembered stories about the elves as the hobbits knew had always moved him most deeply. There are some, even in these parts, as know the fair folk and get news of them, he said. There's Mr. Baggins now that I work for. He told me that they were sailing, and he knows a bit about elves. And old Mr. Bilbo knew more. Many's the talk I had with him when I was a little lad. Oh, they're both cracked, said Ted. Leastways, old Bilbo is cracked and Frodo's cracking. If that's where you get your news from, you'll never want for moonshine. Well, friends, I'm off home. Your good health. He drained his mug and went out noisily. Oh my God, I've just realized who I'm basing Ted Sandyman on, and I don't think you'll get this joke, but I know Sandy will, so I'm going to tell it.
Yeah.
Ted Sandyman is Shorzy. I
don't get it.
So there's a show that we watch, which you also would enjoy. It's called Letterkenny. It's based in.
Yeah. You showed me an episode. You showed me an episode.
Yeah. So lovely. So in Letterkenny, there's a character that like was a running gag for a while and it has become more and more like of a character. And Sandy laughed. And the gag with Shorzy is that you never see his face, but he's got that really strong accent that I'm doing, that like Canadian Irish whatever accent that is.
Right.
And he's always just like ragging on people and like insulting their moms.
Yeah, that's a Ted Sandyman. I'll take it.
Yep. I was like, well, how am I doing this accent so consistently? What accent is this? This is Shorzy, is what that is. Yeah. All right. He drained his mug and went out noisily. Sam sat silent and said no more. He had a good deal to think about. For one thing, there was a lot to do up in the Bag End garden, and he would have a busy day tomorrow if the weather cleared. The grass was growing fast. But Sam had more on his mind than gardening. After a while he sighed and got up and went out. It was early April, and the sky was now clearing after heavy rain. The sun was down, and a cool, pale evening was quietly fading into night. He walked home under the early stars through Hobbiton and up the hill, whistling softly and thoughtfully. Man, Tolkien just hits you with these descriptions sometimes, doesn't he?
Yeah, like you can smell the rain, can't you?
Mm-hmm. You can feel the air.
Yeah. Soft April air.
It was just at this time that Gandalf reappeared after his long absence. For 3 years after the party, he had been away. Then he paid Frodo a brief visit, and after taking a good look at him, he went off again. During
I always loved that sentence because I picture just knocking on the door, Frodo opens, Gandalf, and he's like, and then he goes away.
Now that's what I'm picturing too. Thank you. Yes. Let's see. During the next year or two, he had turned up fairly often, coming unexpectedly after dusk and going off without warning before sunrise. Oh, that's such a fuckboy move.
It really is.
He's doing the wizard equivalent of sending a 2 a.m. text that says, "You up?" Anyway, he would not discuss his own business and journeys because he was emotionally unavailable.
Yep.
And seemed chiefly interested in small news about Frodo's health and doings. Then suddenly his visits had ceased because he ghosted him. It was over 9 years since Frodo had seen or heard of him, and he had begun to think that the wizard would never return, and had given up all interest in hobbits. But that evening, as Sam was walking home and twilight was fading, there came the once familiar tap on the study window. He doesn't even come to the front door. Like, come on, man.
Right?
That's no way to treat your boyfriend.
It's one of his quirks. His adorable quirks.
Don't make excuses for him. Frodo welcomed his old friend with surprise and great delight. They looked hard at one another. Should I add dramatic reenactment to the channel description?
I don't know if you can apply the word dramatic to anything we're doing. Melodramatic, sure, but
it's a potato. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. It's all the same.
Anyway, so they looked hard at one another.
Yes. Okay, where am I? Ah, well, said Gandalf. You look the same as ever, Frodo. I'm not doing Gandalf's voice right now, but it's fine. Okay. So do you, Frodo replied. But secretly he thought that Gandalf looked older and more careworn. He pressed him for news of himself and of the wide world, and soon they were deep in talk, and they stayed up far into the night.
Oh, stop it, you.
Shit.
I mean, this isn't even the most homoerotic part of the book.
I know, not even remotely. That's what's funny about it.
But that were inevitable, what with the times and all. That he was writing it, I mean.
Oh, yes. Next morning, after a late breakfast, the wizard was sitting with Frodo by the open window of the study. A bright fire was on the hearth, but the sun was warm, and the wind was in the south. Everything looked fresh, and the new green of spring was shimmering in the fields and on the tips of the trees' fingers. Gandalf was thinking of a spring nearly 80 years before, when Bilbo had run out of Bag End without a handkerchief. His hair was perhaps whiter than it had been then, and his beard and eyebrows were perhaps longer, and his face more lined with care and wisdom. But his eyes were as bright as ever, and he smoked and blew smoke rings with the same vigor and delight. He was smoking now in silence, for Frodo was sitting still, deep in thought. Even in the light of morning, he felt the dark shadow of the tidings that Gandalf had brought. At last he broke the silence. "Last night you began to tell me strange things about my ring, Gandalf," he said. "And then you stopped because you said that such matters were best left until daylight. Don't you think you had better finish now? You say the ring is dangerous, far more dangerous than I guess. In what way?" "In many ways," answered the wizard. Straight answer, bro. Come on. Right? Take it. Here. I'll take a shot of tea.
Yeah.
The game, by the way, is take a shot every time Gandalf says many
or much.
or much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't do it with alcohol because we don't want to die.
You can also, if you want to rope in, if you're really that thirsty, you could rope in anytime he just doesn't give a straight answer to a perfectly valid question.
Oof. Man. Yeah, that's oof.
It's like black chicken rolls.
Yeah. Don't play black chicken rolls. All right.
In many ways.
In many ways, answered the wizard. It is far more powerful than I ever dared to think at first, so powerful that in the end it would utterly overcome anyone of mortal race who possessed it. It would possess him. In Eregion.
Yeah, I've always pronounced it with a hard G.
Eregion?
No,
wait,
hard.
Which is the hard one?
The one that sounds hard and not soft. Eregion is what I always say.
Okay.
But if you know better, go ahead and correct us. Anybody listening?
Indeed. Here's the thing. First of all, nobody listening to this knows Tolkien better than you. Let's be real. But
I know I'm willing to admit shit I don't know.
I know, but I know our audience. Love you guys. You don't know more about Tolkien than Robin. I was going to say a thing about me that has never, for some reason, has come up twice in like the last 24 hours and has never come up in my life before. But I don't understand the difference between hard and soft consonants. I don't know which is which. So that's not a good way to describe things to me. Huh?
Oh, all right. The ground is hard. Giraffes are fluffy.
I disagree with you about giraffes. I think they're less fluffy than you would think, but I take your point. All right, where am I? Oh, yes. In Eregion, long ago, many elven rings were made, magic rings, as you call them, and they were, of course, of various kinds, some more potent and some less. The lesser rings were only essays in the craft.
Alexa, drop into the living room.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. Take a look at the help section in your Alexa app.
2 seconds, guys. Abby, stop bouncing the ball! He might have heard me. Our tech is disobedient. Go ahead.
Right. Let's see. The lesser rings were only essays in the craft before it was full grown, and to the elven smiths they were but trifles, yet still, to my mind, dangerous for mortals. But the great rings, the rings of power, they were perilous. A mortal, Frodo, who keeps one of the great rings does not die, but he does not grow or obtain more life. He merely continues, until at last every minute is a weariness. And if he often uses the ring to make himself invisible, he fades. He becomes in the end invisible permanently, and walks in the twilight under the eye of the dark power that rules the rings. Yes, sooner or later, if he is strong or well-meaning to begin with, but neither strength nor good purpose will last. Sooner or later, the dark power will devour him. How terrifying, said Frodo. There was another long silence. The sound of Sam Gamgee cutting the lawn came in from the garden.
We discussed this when we first read it, back 15 years ago.
Oh, God, I remember that.
Gamgee with an honest-to-God, like, Toro lawnmower. So we hear...
Okay, here, you do that, and I'm going to read a little bit so we can, like, really give an atmosphere. Ready?
Go for it.
In Eregion, long ago, many elven rings were made. Magic rings, as we call them. And they were, of course, of various kinds. More potent, and some less.
I can't.
I know, I can't either. But it was so worth it.
Got the atmosphere, haven't you?
I also like to picture Sam in this scene as Sean Astin in like a wife beater and shorts and like big headphones and sunglasses. Just like you're cutting the grass. Atmosphere.
Indeed.
It also makes it really hard. I remember this from last time too. It makes it really hard to continue reading the scene with a straight face. How long have you known this? Asked Frodo. Think. All right. Try to put that out of our minds. And how much did Bilbo know? Bilbo knew no more than he told you, I am sure, said Gandalf. He would certainly never have passed on to you anything that he thought would be a danger, even though I promised to look after you. He thought the ring was very beautiful and very useful at need, and if anything was wrong or queer, it was himself. He said that it was growing on his mind and he was always worrying about it, but he did not suspect that the ring itself was to blame, though he had found out that the thing needed looking after. It did not seem always of the same size or weight. It shrank or expanded in an odd way, and might suddenly slip off a finger where it had been tight. Yes, he warned me of that in his last letter, said Frodo, so I have always kept it on its chain. Very wise, said Gandalf. But as for his long life... One moment, excuse me. I had a little bit of a cold, and it's mostly better, but occasionally it's just like I have to cough. It was not the coronavirus. I had a runny nose. I did not have a fever. I'm fine.
Okay, good.
Let's see. But as for his long life, Bilbo never connected it with the ring at all. He took all the credit for that to himself, and he was very proud of it, though he was getting restless and uneasy. Thin and stretched, he said, a sign that the ring was getting control. How long have you known all this? Asked Frodo again. Known, said Gandalf. I have known.
He didn't give a correct answer, he didn't give a straight answer.
Oh, and he's about to. This is going to be a two-shot one.
Right.
Known, said Gandalf. I have known much that only the wise know, Frodo. But if you mean known about this ring, well, I still do not know, one might say. There is a last test to make, but I no longer doubt my guess. When did I first begin to guess? He mused, searching back in memory. Just answer the question, Gandalf. No one cares.
No one cares.
Let me see. It was in the year that the White Council drove the Dark Power from Mirkwood, just before the Battle of Five Armies, that Bilbo found his ring. Okay, Grandpa, we know.
Yep.
A shadow fell on my heart then, though I did not know yet what I feared. I wondered often how Gollum came by a great ring, as plainly it was. That, at least, was clear from the first. Then I heard Bilbo's strange story of how he had won it, and I could not believe it. When I at last got the truth out of him, I saw at once that he had been trying to put his claim to the ring beyond doubt, much like Gollum with his birthday present. The lies were too much alike for my comfort. Clearly, the ring had an unwholesome power that set to work on its keeper at once. That was the first real warning I had that all was not well. I told Bilbo often that such rings were better left unused, but he resented it and soon got angry. There was little else that I could do. I could not take it from him without doing greater harm, and I had no right to do so anyway. I could only watch and wait. I might perhaps have consulted Saruman the White, but something always held me back. Yeah, that something is called a survival instinct, Gandalf, and you should have listened to it much better than you did.
Yeah,
Also,
your intuition would have been much better for trusting at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Also, he's onto the weed whacker now. Who is he? Asked Frodo. I have never heard of him before. Maybe not, answered Gandalf. Hobbits are, or were, no concern of his. Yet he is great among the wise. Can we also just mention that if you have a little club and you call yourself the Wise with a capital W, you are really just a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're immortal demigods, you're being dicks. Stop it.
Yeah, the wise asses.
He is the chief of my order and the head of the council. His knowledge is deep, but his pride has grown with it, and he takes ill any meddling. The lore of the elven rings, great and small, is his province. He has long studied it, seeking the lost secrets of their making. But when the rings were debated in the council, all that he would reveal to us of his ring lore told against my fears. So my doubts slept, but uneasily. Still I watched, and I waited. And all seemed well with Bilbo, and the years passed. Yes, they passed, but they seemed not to touch him. He showed no signs of age. The shadow fell on me again. But I said to myself, after all, he comes of a long-lived family on his mother's side. There is time yet. Wait. And I waited, until that night when he left this house. He said and did things then that filled me with a fear that no words of Saruman could allay. I knew at last that something dark and deadly was at work, and I have spent most of the years since then in finding out the truth of it. There wasn't any permanent harm done, was there? Said Frodo anxiously. He would get all right in time, wouldn't he? Be able to rest in peace, I mean? He felt better at once, said Gandalf. But there is only one power in this world that knows all about the rings and their effects. And as far as I know, there is no power in the world that knows all about hobbits. Among the wise, I'm the only one that goes in for hobbit lore, an obscure branch of knowledge, but full of surprises. Soft as butter they can be, and yet sometimes as tough as old tree roots. I think it likely that some would resist the rings for far longer than most of the wise would believe. I don't think you need worry about Bilbo. Of course, he possessed the ring for many years and used it, so it might take a long while for the influence to wear off, before it was safe for him to see it again, for instance. Otherwise, he might live on for years quite happily, just stop as he was when he parted with it. For he gave it up in the end of his own accord, an important point. No, I was not troubled about dear Bilbo any more once he had let the thing go. It is for you that I feel responsible. Ever since Bilbo left, I have been deeply concerned about you and about all these charming, absurd, helpless hobbits. It would be a grievous blow to the world if the dark power overcame the Shire, if all your kind, jolly, stupid Bolgers, Hornblowens, Boffins, Bracegirdles, and the rest, not to mention the ridiculous Bagginses, became enslaved. Geez, don't do us any favors, dude. God. I love you so much. I think you're just so stupid and childish and silly. Like that.
Yes, you all need so much looking after. I love you and your stupidity. And it's like, you know what? No, never mind.
You know what? Get out of here with this paternalistic bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's see. Frodo shuddered. But why should we be, he asked, and why should he want such slaves? To tell you the truth, replied Gandalf, I believe that hitherto, mark you, he has entirely overlooked the existence of hobbits. You should be thankful. But your safety has passed. He does not need you. He has many more useful servants. Dude, why you gotta neg me like that? But he won't forget you again. And hobbits as miserable slaves would please him far more than hobbits happy and free. There is such a thing as malice and revenge. Revenge? Said Frodo. Revenge for what? I still don't understand what all of this has to do with Bilbo and myself and our ring. It has everything to do with it, said Gandalf. You do not know the real peril yet, but you shall. I was not sure of it myself when I was last here, but the time has come to speak. Give me the ring for a moment. Frodo took it from his breeches pocket, where it was clasped to a chain that hung from his belt. He unfastened it and handed it slowly to the wizard. It felt suddenly very heavy, as if either it or Frodo himself, was in some way reluctant for Gandalf to touch it. Gandalf held it up. It looked to be made of pure and solid gold. Can you see any markings on it? He asked. No, said Frodo. There are none. It is quite plain, and it never shows a scratch or sign of wear. Well then, look. To Frodo's astonishment and distress, the wizard threw it suddenly into the middle of a glowing corner of the fire. Frodo gave a cry and groped for the tongs, but Gandalf held him back. Wait, he said in a commanding voice, giving Frodo a quick look from under his bristling brows.
Just for the record, even if it was an ordinary piece of jewelry that his beloved uncle had left him and someone threw it in a fire, he would probably have freaked the fuck out. So that's not exactly like a telling sign that the ring is working or anything.
Not really, no. It's more like a, hey, dude, why'd you just throw my shit in a fire? Like...
Yeah.
Let's see. No apparent change came over the ring. After a while, Gandalf got up, closed the shutters outside the window, and drew the curtains. The room became dark and silent, though the clack of Sam's shears, now nearer to the windows, could still be heard faintly from the garden. For a moment, the wizard stood looking at the fire. Then he stooped and removed the ring to the hearth with the tongs, and at once picked it up. Frodo gasped. You do gasp better than I do. It is quite cool, said Gandalf. It is quite cool.
Quite cool. Not as cool as me.
Take it. Sorry, I shouldn't have just opened with that. Anyway, he hands the ring to Frodo. That is what he is telling him to
take.
Anyway, take, yes. Frodo received it on his shrinking palm. It seemed to have become thicker and heavier than ever.
See, this is why it's dangerous to go there, because you'll never leave.
It's really bold of you to assume that I hadn't already gone there many years ago. Just because I wasn't making these jokes when I was 16 does not mean that in the time since I have not been thoroughly...
I only mean that if you're not reading Tolkien with your innocent brain on, then every sentence is screamingly hilarious. And about penises. Like, all of them.
Well, gosh, what a shame that we have made everything funny now. That's definitely not what we're here to do. God.
You can be entertained by your innocent brain, you jaded human.
Anyway, back to the ring.
Yes.
Hold it up, said Gandalf, and looked closely. As Frodo did, he now saw fine lines, finer than the finest pen strokes, running along the ring, outside and inside. Lines of fire that seemed to form the letters of a flowing script. They shone piercingly bright yet remote, as if out of a great depth. I'm going to hold this up to the camera so that you can see the script here. There it is. Hey, we're not there. We're not there yet. Wait, I don't think it happens right now. So, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Ashnas Kimpatul Ashnas Trakataluk Us Ursaburumishi Kimpatu.
That's what that says.
That's what that says.
And immediately the phone rings in a very weird moment of timing.
Hey, Mom, I'm podcasting with Heather. Can I call you back in a bit?
Hi, Mom.
All right, I love you. Bye-bye. Yeah. She was in the middle of saying goodbye when I hung up. Whoops. We are sitting on 4:59, so...
Yes, I know. I was actually going to ask when we paused for a moment, do you want to keep going until you're at a stopping place with your drawing? Do you want to stop right now? What you want to do?
I want to stop right now, I think. We've been doing really well with keeping it to an hour.
Okie dokie. Well, we will stop right here with the Black Speech, and then that'll be an easy place to pick back up.
Yes. And plus I can hear my son bouncing my yoga ball in the room above me.
Yeah, you should probably stop him from doing that. If it blows up, it's going to be really loud.
No, it isn't. I have blown up a yoga ball before. It doesn't sound like a popping. We would just hear him hitting the ground really, really loudly, like thump. Do you remember this?
Was I there for that?
I don't know. I think I told you about it. My youngest was very colicky, and the only thing that would soothe him was bouncing on a yoga ball. And one night I'd been bouncing for a good solid 8 hours, and the ball was just like, I now die. and, and it didn't make a bang sound, but my ass hitting the floor sure did.
Yeah.
It's just like,
well, there we go. I bow to your expertise on the subject.
like Christopher Lee talking about what sound a man makes when he's being stabbed.
Ah, yes. Oh, we'll get to that. All right. So tomorrow I work. I work from 9 to either 5:30 or 6. To be honest, I didn't look at what time my shift was going to be over, but it will be one of the two. Probably 5:30.
Is there anything for your business to do when there's no restaurants open?
Yes, because we are the ones who have to help them shut down.
Oh, fuck.
It's busy at my work right now. It's really busy.
Holy. Yeah, but then it'll be like a long stretch of not busy, won't it?
I have no idea.
We shall see.
Also, I can't say, and probably wouldn't say on YouTube if I knew.
That's a good point. All right. So, after working a long day, you probably won't want to do this at all. Are you working? You said you don't know what days you're working?
No, I know what days I work. I work Tuesday through Saturday. So I am willing to say let's try an evening podcast if you want to, and we'll see how it goes. And if I'm too tired, we can maybe do a little bit less frequently or something like that.
Right. Or try to stick to like half an hour or something.
Yeah.
So 7 to 7:30 or 7:30 to 8, somewhere in there, or did you want to go later?
We could start at, I mean, what time works for you? You've got more stuff going on at night than I do.
The times that don't work are like 6 to 7 and 8 to 9, because those are dinner time and bedtime.
Well, that kind of leaves us a nice 7 to 8 chunk in there. You want to try that tomorrow?
Let's try 7 to 8.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Sweet. See you at 7. I love you.
I love you.
Cuidado.
Llamas.